Okay, Robbie, I will come back and you're good to go, friend.
You're muted.
Yeah, thank you. Gosh, there we go. All right, good morning, brothers and sisters. Wonderful to see everybody today, and I hope everyone's off to a good start to their day. And as someone just reminded me, make sure at this point that your microphone's muted before we get started, or if it needs to be on, check to make sure you're unmuted, depending where you are. So Brazea Spiritual Healing Center is a non-denominational spiritist center, and all religions and spiritual traditions are welcomed and respected. We are part of the United States Spiritist Federation, whose beliefs are centered around scientific, philosophical, and religious principles of Spiritism. Before we continue with the announcements and get going, I would like to invite our sister Regina for our opening prayer today.
Oh, okay. Let us close our eyes with love and gratitude in our hearts for our Lord Jesus Christ. We ask you, dear Jesus, to embrace us in this moment, to infuse our minds, our hearts, to accept this lesson that we're about to receive. We ask you for your love always, Jesus, to always stand by us and lead us to a better way of understanding and accepting each other. With your love and grace, dear Jesus, we ask for your permission to open our service, and so be it.
So be it. Thank you. So Emmanuel taught us that knowledge and love are the two wings for our spiritual or moral evolution. That is the reason our study today is presented in two parts. The first part is the presentation or the knowledge Emmanuel refers to, and your participation is welcome. Your mentor will be supporting you with insights as well as reflection on the topic of study presented today. The second part is the healing, the love that Emmanuel refers to. Again, your mentor will be working with the BSH mediums so you can receive and accept the healing energy. And it's an absolutely beautiful way to ground ourselves in preparation for the upcoming week. And as you can see, as we're sharing there, we have many services offered throughout the week. And it's a wonderful thing to take advantage of. It's a great way to keep focused on our path by continuing to educate ourselves. We also get the benefit of putting what we learn into practice to better see where we need to focus our intentions in order to progress. So Monday through Friday, we offer a prayer group from 6 to 6:30. I guess and Saturday as well is 6 to 6:30. And Emmanuel suggested to us in Thought and Life that we have developed new habits, and prayer is a beautiful way to ground yourself and to be in service from day to day. And then from there, on Tuesdays from 6:30 to 8 at Light Ahead, or the Divine Light, we study Light Ahead. And then Wednesdays, we offer fraternal counseling. And Thursday, from 6:30 to 7:30, we study BSH, the Spirit's book, which has been awesome. And we've made so much progress. It's been a wonderful journey. And 7:30 to 8:05 at Divine Light, we're studying Happy Life, which is a great book. Small little pieces, but they offer so much wisdom within them. And 6:30 to 7:30 is Action and Reaction study group with Divine Light. And Sundays, we offer Spiritism for the youth, 8:30 to 9:30. And then we have our services here from 10 to 11:30, and then 6 to 6:45 p.m. on Sunday. The Gospel, Spirit's teachings, and I believe that's with Sunshine on Divine Light. And that covers those. And I'm sorry, I didn't know I was doing the announcements today, brother. But Charles is speaking today on understanding the divine and human realms. And I'm going to pull up his bio. Charles is a student of Spiritism and its doctrine, as postulated by Allan Kardec. Also interested on understanding the contributions of numerous divine messengers that throughout our human history have brought to our attention hints into the universal gospel. resident of California since 1986, collaborator of the Euripides Barsanopoulos Spiritus Center. I probably butchered that. Sorry if I did. And Blossom Spiritus Society of Los Angeles, and worker at Brazera Spiritual Healing Center. Master's degree in clinical psychology in Brazil at UFMG, educational psychology, marriage and family therapy, and certified K through 12 school counselor, CSU Northridge. Good job, brother. That's a beautiful resume. And before we get going, just remind everyone once again to mute yourself. And with that, the stage is yours, brother. Enjoy.
Everybody, it's a pleasure to be here, joining in our spiritual family for another hour and a half of learning experience. And with the prayer that was said this morning by Regina, I add to that I asked my spiritual guide to really support each of us on be open-minded for the teachings of today, and that my word be a reflection of what I'm inspired to. So without further delay, let me share this screen with the presentation that I have. Because I'll be talking about something that has been very intriguing to me recently, is the importance of really understanding what is the divine realm and what's the human realm. I guess we have a basic understanding of that, or intuition about what the difference are, but I want to be more specific about bringing this to our conversation today. So basically, I'm going to be addressing this understanding that is brought to us by Spiritism about the spiritual world, right? The divine world. So let me move on here. So we do understand that Spiritism is a third revelation as promised by our brother Jesus Christ, that at some point in his life, he promised that at some point in the future, we would receive more information about the message that he brought in. Because Jesus' contribution basically was to highlight to us the existence of a spiritual realm. That's what his message was about. That we're not just in this physical, materialistic type of world. So if Spiritism is the third revelation, we have Moses as the first revelation. And we know Moses by this typical image of him with the tablets with the 10 Commandments. But it is important for us to understand that the Mosaic laws, it addresses over 300 items. We have the 10 Commandments, which is the most highlighted, but there are over 300 items that is part of the Mosaic law. So that's something that for those of us that are interested in studying it, we can research and find out what were those 312 laws that Moses imposed on the community as a messenger of God. And continue with that, the second revelation was Jesus, right? Jesus brought to us, as he mentioned himself, that he didn't come to destroy the law. He came to make sure that we understand the laws. So that's the second revelation of brother Jesus Christ. With the new revelation, with the Spiritism, it brings a new perspective on what we understand as visible world, the material world, and the human world, right? So that's what it is, or what it was by the time the new revelation came about. And that is about this. For the invisible, it showed us the invisible. For the material, it showed us the spiritual world. And for the human, it showed us the divine world. So that's the contribution of the new revelation. That's what the Spiritisms bring to our better understanding of our reality. So Jesus said, my kingdom is not of this world. So back then, that was something really innovative. That was something revolutionary. What is he talking about? So that was his contribution when he brought into the day-to-day conversation this possibility that he's coming from a different kind of world that is not here. So when we talk about human realms, that's what we're referring to, right? Our communities, our material perspectives on things. That's the human world. But when it comes to the divine, we're talking about different realities. This is a art presentation of a section of Nosso Lar, as depicted on the movie. But this gives an example that there are realities out there, okay, that is not like human. It's a divine reality, and there are different ways of living, different communities. It has a totally different perspective. Things over there are not made of stones and bricks and cement, are made by spiritual inspiration. So when it comes to science, so as I go, I just gave it to you the idea of, let me go back a little bit here, of the human realities. But when it comes to science, that's our representation of science, is where 1 + 1 = 2. That's the precise, the scientific method that explores that goes up. But when it comes to divine science, what we have is 1 + 1 = 3. So it's a different kind of math. So in comparison, human science, it'll be like a man and woman, just as an example, all right, that we have two. But when it comes to the divine, that connection between man and woman becomes something else. There's a third element. So that's the divinity of the relationship between man and woman, or between people, right? That we always generate a third element. So that's in the realms of anthropology. So when it comes to anthropology, that's the human and there's the divine. When it comes to justice, I believe that I read the other day that man regulates its relationship with other men by the laws that we humans create for ourselves, for our society. But when it comes to the relationship between us and the divine, that is a different perspective. The justice is the law of reincarnation. So in the human side of it, we have the law that we created, and we see on a daily basis that difference, how human laws are, their injustices in comparison with what is supposed to be justice. And we suffer by that. Well, our brother Jesus was crucified under those laws. And on a daily basis, we see examples of human shortcomings when it comes to justice. However, when it comes to the divine, reincarnation is the ultimate sense of justice. That's why we're here, not as a punishment, but as a consequence of the needs that we have to continue our evolutionary process or our development process. When it comes to economy, the realm of economy, that's the structure that till today, that's what sustains our economy. the laws, the rounds of economy, where the little guys are exploited and support the ones on top. Okay, I think that's we see different models or different examples of that, but that's what prevails in our human economical realm. Now, when it comes to the divine, what do we have? I use this example of Jesus multiplying bread and fish and giving to everybody. So it's the law of abundance. There's no somebody trying to control and manipulate ones to keep, to hoard what they want to keep, power and economic privileges. So Jesus exemplified to us that, look, there's so much for everybody. And here it is. He multiplied bread, he multiplied fish, and he nurtured thousands and thousands of people that way. Exemplified that in the field of economy, there's this clear distinction, human economy and divine economy. Moving to the field of architecture. So the human architecture, we see the examples that we have. I believe that this picture is a picture of one of the favelas in, it could be in any country, or places where there's no care about the quality of living conditions of the people. And people have to fend for themselves and survive as much as they can. Right now in our country, we experience the phenomenon of homelessness, right? Where people are living under the bridges. They're out there, and that's a human creation. So in the field of architecture, that's what we are experiencing. When it comes to example of a divine architecture, is the architecture of providing the basic needs for those with satisfaction, with no deprivation. There is on, I believe it's on, well, I think I saw a series on TV recently that talks about the different construction, different ways of building for people, where the humanity of people is taken in first consideration, where people are creating better living conditions for those that they don't have it, and creating economical balances that makes it very affordable. I believe that, I forget the name of the series, but I can post it for you guys later. But it's a very interesting see what's being done out there. Some people, some architects, some engineers are really concerned about this aspect of not having good living conditions for everybody. And they are coming up with ideas that are really mind-blowing and really gives me goosebumps to see that some people are really making it happen and creating humane conditions of living for our brothers and sisters. We see the phenomenon that's going on in our country as well, and is being spread throughout the world, is the process of gentrification. It's amazing how that is impacting people. That is amazing that how the economy and the process, the political choices that people are making is creating this phenomenon of gentrification where people are being pushing out of their own community because of economical policies that are forcing them into moving to not so great conditions. So that's happening. It's a real thing that's happening everywhere, and it's being spread throughout the world. Another round that I think it speaks very close to my experience of life, because I'm very involved in sports. So I see that human sports, it's another round, or athletics, it's another round that we have to take in consideration. I'll make a comparison with the Olympic movement, which is a great humanistic movement that was created with the intention to bring people together and to bring peace throughout the world through sports. However, we have the Olympians. There are athletes, very well endowed athletes that have all the conditions to develop their skills, their abilities, and they are in a process of competing with one another, almost like fighting with one another to get that piece of gold. So that's a one aspect of the athletics around. And when you look into the divine, this is what we have. We have the Paralympics, where those athletes, they are so inspired. They're overcoming physical limitations that a few years ago, we would consider, well, these people cannot do anything. But now we see that they overcoming that physical barrier, that physical obstacles, and being inspired and inspiring us by overcoming their own physical deficiencies and accomplishing so much. So if you have the traditional Olympic Games, okay, which highlights the power, the competition, those that have the more recourse or resources to stick to their training, to their preparation, they succeed. And those that don't have those, they don't participate, they are out. So they don't get as much medals. But then you have on the spiritual side, the Paralympics, which highlight the success of the spirit over matter. I mean, I don't know if you have seen any of those stories of these athletes, but it's so inspiring to see what they have to do in order to overcome the physical limitations. So that, to me, it represents, it's a realm that is demonstrating to the whole world there's a spiritual side to it, there's this divine side to it, not just the competition, but the divine side. It's a one of a personal separation or personal overcoming. It's really interesting. So having that in consideration, we can name numerous fields that we actually participate on. So the field of medicine, I don't want to put more pictures over here, but I just want you to exercise in your mind this perspective. How would medicine become less human and more spiritual? Right? So we have, if I can use as an example, medicine, we have the vaccine that came to take care of the COVID pandemic. However, the economical side of it, which makes it a more humane realm, is it can be devastating. But we can have medicine that is more spiritualized, medicine that works with the spiritual nature. And we see those happening in many of the medical associations now that are considering spirituality as part of the understanding of medicine. So we have engineering. I'll just give you an example. What about creating habitats for people that involves more bringing people together and cooperating with each other, or creating cities, or creating roads that are more for the purpose of helping others to become more spiritualized. The politics, education. Look at education, the environment, in general, the industry, religion, right? Consider public safety as a way to that we see this human side of it, but we can also see and promote the spiritual side of it. The military forces, right? So much can do to a place that has needs, and they use that power, that resource, in order to create drinking water for people or sewage system for communities. Okay, so that what would be a spiritual application of the military forces instead of just going somewhere and devastating by destructing and causing so much suffering. So the legal services, the social services, and so on. So I think my conversation today, is somehow a continuation of our brother Brian did, I think a couple of weeks back, where he gave a tremendous presentation on what he does in his field of assisting communities that have been devastated by fires or by natural disaster. He gave us a whole structure about how do we can spiritualize our personal experience in the field that we work. And the greatest question today is this: okay, we are in a process of a planetary transition. We are transitioning to a world of regeneration. How are we going to do that? Because there's no magic. There's no jump into the process. We're not going to just wake up one day and be on a world of regeneration. No, we are responsible to build it. We are the ones that will create this condition of being a world of regeneration. And being a world of regeneration does not mean that it's a final place. It's a process. It's a world of regeneration. So if we want to make a contribution to our world, to create a world of regeneration, we need to think about what is it that we are doing. The area that I work at, how can I spiritualize my area? And that's an invitation for every and each one of you. How can you spiritualize the area that you are contributing with? How can you make your work a more spiritualized work? How can you make that contribution to improve our planet? I think that's what the Spirit is calling us for, is for having this kind of a commitment that we need to understand there are the human side of things and there are the divine side of things. And what do you want? Spiritism as a third revelation, it brings a tremendous contribution. And as we know, it's more than, actually, I'm having trouble in defining Spiritism as a religion now, because I'm understanding more and more that it's more like a principles, and better understanding is more scientific, is more philosophical than a religious movement that brings us into study and improve ourselves. And by improving ourselves, we make that contribution to improve the entire world, entire planet. So Spiritist doctrine, I heard this the other day as well, that nowadays we have so much in the literature of Spiritism that it's impossible for any of us to spend our entire life and read everything that is out there. Even if you're born reading, you just came out of the womb and you already know how to read, and you read every day of your life. We cannot read everything that is out there already. So it's an invitation. We have no more excuses to disregard the spiritual world. It is important for us that we improve our understanding and make progress in our intellectuality, in our knowledge about understanding the divine laws. There's so much out there that we can take lives to read everything or to understand everything. And even then, we're not going to understand everything because the knowledge is infinite. Okay? The more we learn, the more we'll have to learn. So that's part of the natural law. So again, the invitation is proposed to each one of us, including myself, is that we have a lot of work to do. And we know that our physical life has an end date. We have an expiration date. It's going to happen sometime, soon enough, right? But what we are preparing ourselves for The teachings that we're learning, the experience that we're having is preparing us for something else, for something ahead of us. And that's what all experience that we go through gives us, is preparing us for something else. So as we know, in our next slide, because I don't think anybody here in this little meeting that participates in our conversation are qualified not to return to this planet yet. I think we all know that we're going to come back. So preparing ourselves is preparing ourselves for that future life, for that future reincarnation, okay? And we don't know where we're going to be born. We may be born somewhere else that has no idea what spiritism is. But because we have immersed ourselves in this knowledge, that's what we're going to carry with us wherever we're going to go. So somehow, intuitively, we will be equipped to make sure that the principles of spiritism, which is, I think that the basic principles are like a 15. There's a YouTube, if you type spiritism principles on YouTube, is like a 10 minutes video that gives you all the 15 basic principles of spiritism, which is believing reincarnation, believing life after death, believing life in other planets, and so on. Those are the principles that it's important that we master and that we take with us wherever next we're going to be working on. So, Christ's message must be known, meditated upon, felt, and lived. That's a message that the Spirit of Alcyone in the book Renounce by Chico Xavier called our attention to, that it is important that we not just have vague knowledge about who Christ was. It is important that we know his messages, that we meditate upon it, that we feel it, and primarily that we live it. So it is important that we immerse ourselves in this personal journey of renewing ourselves, improving ourselves, because that's going to count. So with that, I hope I didn't go too far long, but with that, I'd like to close and just saying that we have in Christ our example to follow. So thank you so much. I'm open for questions or comments. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, brother. That was a great presentation. Some of the things for me, especially one, is we're absolutely blessed in this time period to have knowledge so readily accessible to us. I mean, as far as you look back in history, we've never had a time to have all the faiths of the world at our fingertips just to look up if we're interested. And so many ways and so many beautiful, inspiring messages out there for us to study upon. The other one, definitely that last one of Christ's message, to live it and reflect on it and think about it, is to, be aware how much maybe we just engage in the study process, but are we actually putting it into practice out there, going beyond the studying and really putting it into use? Because that's what it's all for us, right? Yeah, that one there, that's beautiful. And that's something I've been thinking a lot about lately, is like, how much am I living it? To reflect upon, that I don't get caught up in just the study of it, that I'm not applying it in all ways that I can. And the other part that I loved, especially the Paralympics, it really is a difference, because humanity gets stuck in the pride and selfishness of us. So that's their agenda. And it's about helping themselves maybe build a name, build a brand to make money out of it. But when you look about like the Paralympics, I love that, how you related that to the divine, because it's encouraging to see those stories that people overcome situations and are able to achieve, and how we need to celebrate those even more. But right now, we got some great lessons in pride and selfishness down here with us. And unfortunately, they take over at times a little more. But thank you so much. I know there's other comments, but I really appreciated it. And I open the floor for some comments.
Thank you.
Charles, beautiful presentation. I love the intelligent and simplistic approach you took and giving us the categories beyond facts. It's so easy to get caught up in academic facts and just learn the details from a human perspective. And you brought to us the divine perspective in all these different categories. And so that's just huge. And the second thing I realized as you were doing that, what a beautiful environment we are in right now, that we are not just book learning. We're not just absorbing Kardec's words or a medium's words. We are now taking our own human interpretations, yours this morning, and learning from them through your perspectives. And so that sharing effort that you bring to all of us and that we all bring to each other is so beautiful. This morning, your graphics were outstanding. I just love the presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. Just a reminder that as we continue to evolve in our development, this perspective becomes more glaring to us, that there is a human side of things and the divine side of things. And I think that's what we need to consider in order to continue moving on.
Charles, I also would like to thank you. This was very, very beautiful. And as you were bringing the other aspects, like the human and then the divine, one thing that you were prompting me to think about is the human is always more about us, about our pleasure or our safety, it's really benefiting ourselves. But when we think about the divine perspective, we shift the lens, right? Like we shift the lens and then we get out of our own bubble and then we start looking outside. And this is how we, like, as you were saying, like how we expand and then understand that there are other perspectives. So I think that the reflection that I will keep doing during this week is exactly one beautiful question that you made, which was like, how can each one of us make our work more spiritualist? And by spiritualist, I'm thinking about like less selfish and more like helping the others instead of only myself. So
if that only message can get through, I'm really happy with that.
Oh my, yes, you did, friend. You did beautifully. Thank you.
That presentation of Brian was very inspiring, and I totally see what he's doing as a guide. We can go back into that and learn from it.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. Very inspiring.
I think the most inspirational part of this too was the strength of those who got past their difficulties without the depression. I mean, they got past their depression. They got past, in my opinion, their past lives. They moved forward. They accepted where they were, and they showed the world, you know, we no longer want to sit here and just be quadriplegic and do nothing or be useless, you know. So I thought it was absolutely fascinating. It's good to see this energy in the new world.
Yeah, I think we experienced a paradigm shift.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, with the pandemic, we're definitely looking into our reality from a different perspective and a better understanding of it. And I know that we are together here as we are inspired to be here because that's our intent. We want to learn more. That's why we are this unique family of truth seekers that we want to. But look at our numbers right here. We are 12, but the world out there And that's where we are exposed to. How many people do I am in contact with when I go to work? So am I kind of reflecting my personal gains by learning all this? Am I holding on to just for myself, or am I passing it along? So I think that's the challenge that we have, is to make sure that in whatever we do, we are transmitting this message. We don't need to proselytize anybody. That's not what we're doing. But we need to be example and demonstrate by our actions who we truly are.
Yeah, it is amazing. We are talking about this, the human and divine, and I would say personalities and divine. The humankind come back to earth with whole personalities, to be correct, to be treated, to be changed, to be educated. And it's still very, very difficult because when we come here, the divine gets a little lost, and we got back to the personalities, to the old patterns. And then we mix up with the material world and mix up with the daily needs of surviving, education, and the divine gets forgotten again. So it is a challenge. It is a challenge for all of us to keep tracking, to keep disciplined, to keep searching. Because as you said, we are only in the 12 over here is incarnate, no? But the spiritual world, each of us bringing people with us in a spiritual level who are need this education or sharing or learning. And and if we focus more our attention on the divine progress and to understand the personalities that we have bring with us for many, many lives, and working on educating them. So maybe the divine will be rise higher, and then we'll be able to participate, like Jesus said, my kingdom is not of this world, because he comes from a higher world, a world of happiness, a world that is not so many personalities over there, no? And then that is amazing when you brought that. My kingdom is not this world. And so for who know how to read, that is the great message of our Lord Jesus. Get better soon, so you can come and participate with me in a different, better world where I am. So thanks so much for remind us and bring together and bring the I love the when we brought the differences of the how do I say, forgot the word, the athletes. It is amazing how they can, how they even though with all their sacrifices and loss, and I broke my back and I was told that I would not walk again, would be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. And I said, my gosh, even though I will be in a wheelchair, but I'll be paraplegic, and I don't take my voice, my ear, and my eyes from me, because I will continue to progress and even be in service to you. So that is what they showed us, that to continue, to not just stop and not stop your life because something bad happened with us, like the pandemic today. We really need to go through all of this. And today, Gina and I was talking about to be good and the light against the darkness. And we cannot give up. We must go and continue working, continue studying, continue share like you did today, brother. I appreciate. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Tanya. Your conversation reminds me of one aspect that calls my attention is that on the Lord's Prayer, there's a moment that is said, "Thy kingdom come," right? As it has to come, that kingdom to us. But I would say that no, that kingdom manifests through us, because the real purpose of us being here is to transform this world in a divine world. So I think that we are on a path. We're not close yet. However, I think that's the purpose. That's the process, is to transform this world by our actions, by our activities that we create in this planet, is to transform the whole planet as a divine world. Well, thank you so very much, everybody. Appreciate the inputs and the reflections, and I'm looking forward to keep working. All right.
Absolutely. Anybody else have any comments for Charles? Or
Yeah, I could say, Charles, you make a point about, the upper level, the divine, and then where we are. And what I take from that is, when I come across something which is over the top, these mechanisms are not directed towards their improvement, but more to gain together and attention in whatever way. I would have considered these things to be, oh, you need help, and more or less feel superior to them in some way because I don't do that. And what you make me realize is to pray for them, to say to a person who exhibits a lot of bling bling, a lot of money, a lot of perhaps what they call conspicuous consumption. Say, okay, you're doing good. Now, be sure to take care of those around you who need it and move forward the best way you can, rather than to say, as I have in the past more than once, that you need a lot of help and just turn away from them. I realize where I've got a whole lot of stuff I can get on my own character, my own outlook about situations like that. I said, thank you for the guidance.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you.
I was reflecting on what Tanya said, how fast we can lose sight of the divine at times and get caught up within ourselves. And all we truly need to do is look around at those moments, take a pause and just look through our eyes and see all of this that is here. We're not, we didn't do it. Our creator provided all this. So before we get too caught up in our pride and selfishness, maybe we need to take a little time out and just look for 3 to 5 seconds, getting a chance to take a pause and truly reflect on all we've been given.
Now we are called to become co-creators about.
Absolutely. So any other comments for Charles? If not, how long a break should we take? Like just 5 minutes, you think, Kiki, will work? Or okay, we'll go and take
3
5
minutes. Sorry, 3 minutes. I think 3 minutes.
Okay, we'll take 3 minutes. Be sure to grab your water and put in the chat anybody names for prayers. And